in der Woche davor.
Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz has said he's willing to hold a confidence vote in Parliament before the end of the year after the ruling three-party coalition collapsed. In an interview on Sunday night with public broadcaster ARD, Scholz said, "I'm not glued to my post." He'd originally scheduled the vote for the 15th of January, but in the face of increasing pressure is now considering holding it this year, paving the way for snap elections. Scholz is widely expected to lose the vote. In that case, President Frank-Walter Steinmeier will have 21 days to dissolve the Bundestag, and fresh elections must take place within 60 days of Parliament's closure. Scholz also denied he'd provoked the coalition's collapse, saying he'd done everything he could to keep it together. The so-called traffic light coalition collapsed on the 6th of November after Scholz fired Finance Minister Christian Lindner. Speaking to the press at the time, Scholz said Lindner had broken his trust too many times. The coalition had been at odds for some time, particularly over economic and fiscal policy. Authorities in Valencia have ruled out any imminent resignations from the regional government as anger continues to grow over the response to catastrophic flooding. Thousands of people staged a protest on Saturday night, accusing the regional government of sending out public warnings about the dangers of the flooding too slowly. A group of protesters demanding the resignation of regional president Carlos Mazon clashed with riot police in front of the city hall. The EFE news agency said at least 31 police officers were injured in the violence. But the region's vice president said no one would be stepping down, as to do so would be a betrayal of the victims. At least 222 people have been killed in Spain's worst natural disaster in decades. The flooding started after torrential rain lashed the eastern region of Valencia on the 29th of October, with some areas receiving a year's worth of rain in just 8 hours. The central government in Madrid has mobilized thousands of troops and police officers to help with relief and cleanup operations. And thousands of ordinary citizens have also stepped up to help, with no definite estimate as to exactly how many have come forward. The full extent of the damage is unknown, but Spain's Consortium for Insurance Compensation estimates that it will pay out at least €3.5 billion in compensation.
COP29 kicks off in Baku on Monday. Delegates from around the world have gathered here, hoping to find ways to prevent global temperatures from rising and to keep the promises made under the Paris Agreement. But what should we expect from the biggest event of the year to address the climate crisis? The summit is being called the Finance COP, as countries will, for the first time in 15 years, review the scope and structure of financing for developing nations to support climate action. Countries are also encouraged to lay the groundwork for stronger national plans to curb emissions. Turning ambition into action remains a top priority on the COP presidency agenda. But how can this goal be achieved? We put that question to the COP29 president.
We need to consolidate all the efforts of all countries, because it's only with consolidation, with the good motivation for all the participants, we have the chance to have a success. I think the main role for Baku COP, for Azerbaijan, for COP29 team, to be the interconnector between the developing countries and developed, between the south and north, between east and west.
The UN climate change high-level champion for COP29 told us that in addition to focusing on climate change, there is a need for active private sector involvement to achieve sustainable goals.
And when we speak about the green transition, we speak about the new types of economy overall. So the role of the private sector in the global climate action is absolutely crucial. It's so important because private sector is coming with technologies, with innovation, with I don't know, consumer behavior, so they can influence consumer behavior. So it's important to engage with private sector.
Experts say concrete results must be achieved in Baku in order to make progress toward the Paris Agreement's goals. Despite last year's gains, negotiations on the new climate targets have exposed divisions among countries. Meanwhile, the talks are unfolding in a very complex geopolitical scenario. Giorgio Orlandi for Euronews in Baku, Azerbaijan.